Dreams are one of my favorite things. Almost all of my short films I've made are trying to capture the feeling of my dreams. I'm constantly writing my dreams down and thinking about all the dreams that I have, as weird and sometimes scary they are. Wondering what dreams are. But is that a question I really want answered? If I figure out what dreams are, how they work, and what they mean, would there even be any point of dreaming anymore? And, what about Y2K, am I right?
It was a miracle I even got out of Longwood alive. This town full of men with big mouths and no guts. I mean, if you can just picture it. The whole third floor of the hotel gutted by the blast, and the street below showered in shards of broken glass, and all the drunks pouring out of the dance halls, staring up at the smoke and the flames, and the blind pencil seller waving his stick, shouting for his dog that lay dead on the side of the road. And me, if you can believe this, at the wheel of the car, closing my eyes and actually praying, not to God above, but to you, saying, help me, girl. Hey, help me, girl. I'll love you till the end of the world. With your eyes black as coal and your long dark hair.
So, I've been wanting to talk about this movie forever, but never really had the stuff for a full-on video essay, and per my last post, my big long Crimes of the Future video, which I was hoping to get out for Pride Month, is going to take longer because of the work that I want to put into it and the research, so this is going to happen more often as I try and put more effort and try and up the quality of my videos, but I'm not sure if I'll get my big ones out once a month. I don't know. Today, in a shorter than normal video, I'm going to talk about a longer than normal movie, Until the End of the World, and why it's one of my favorites and perhaps one of the best movies out there. Billed as the ultimate road trip movie, I could of course shout out all the things that everyone talks about with this movie if you're, at all familiar with it. The director's cut is 4.5 hours long, almost 5 hours, and I'm going to be talking almost exclusively about the director's cut because the theatrical cut is practically not the same movie. It was filmed in 9 countries over 4 continents. It cost $24 million in 1990s money, which is almost $60 million today. It had a revolutionary for its time soundtrack featuring some of the best bands of the time, giving mostly original songs for this movie, making the movie's soundtrack a bestseller and the strongest chance that you've ever heard of this movie as a young person today. And it also has Sam Neill, who is usually a very good thing for movies. Its long runtime and strange structure come from the fact that it was a combination of 2 different ideas from German director Wim Wenders. One, a road trip odyssey, mirroring the story of Penelope and Odysseus, as Penelope, or Claire, gets tied of her life with Eugene, Sam Neill's character, and chases after the dangerous Odysseus, or Sam, on his run from the law and bounty hunters through 90s shiny, colorful sci-fi. The second is a story of Australian Aboriginals and their concept of dreamlines and songlines, which I won't claim to have any real knowledge about, but focusing on the Aboriginal spiritual importance of how dreams and songs contain paths or dreaming pathways, guided by the spirits, leading you through life. Wim became fascinated by them after a long stay in Australia and wanted to use them to make a sci-fi about the end of the world. These 2 ideas seem almost insane to pair together, and it really is a hard pull. But through a blending of genres, tones, and plotlines, we see a grand mystery play out, a great romance, action, and community, all in a form I've never really seen before. This movie is honestly like nothing else I've ever seen. It balances a beautiful tone between its comedy and absurdity with goofy futuristic technology and unenthusiastic assassins, and its sense of avant-garde mystery and mysticism that's infused throughout the entire runtime. These two aspects benefit each other immensely, as it never takes itself too seriously, but is always just pretentious enough to make its sci-fi, especially in the end, work. And throughout this journey, it's clear that Wim captures something that wasn't just ahead of its time, but that was truly timeless. The film, despite being released in 1991, a decade before the rise of the Y2K scare, talks almost explicitly about the same fears throughout the film. Merely in the background, in the first half, during the chase after Odysseus, there is a nuclear threat that might lead to the end of all technology, and perhaps the end of the world. And I'm sure that for audiences of the late 90s, after the director's cut had slightly more circulation, though it still wouldn't get a theatrical release until 2015, it felt like a movie speaking to them. How do I make this assumption? Because when I watched it, it felt like a movie speaking to me. I watched it for the first time a little after the initial COVID situation in 2020, but it was definitely still fresh in my mind. The bizarre feeling of isolation that it brought, the countless deaths and the grief, the strange communities and connections that were made, the art and the family and the love. And despite it more textually talking to the fears of a Y2K society, the actual text itself was speaking to something much deeper. Let me explain. Throughout the second act of the movie, Penelope and Odysseus, or rather Claire and Sam, as I will continue calling them to make things clearer, get together and start their big romance. And we find out the reason why Sam is on the run, because he needed to steal opals for a camera his dad invented that captures not just pictures, but the brain's reaction to images. So instead of showing someone a picture or a video of something, you're directly sending their brain signals to your brain. So your brain reacts like it sees that thing. It's built to help his blind mother see again before she dies. He's traveling the world, recording her loved ones and showing her the sights, all to take back to their lab in Australia. Despite his rough relationship with his dad, which mirrors Wim's own relationship with his father in the medical industry, who wanted him to follow in his footsteps. Sam feels indebted to them, and he wants to help his mother. He and Claire make their way to Australia, followed by the ragtag group of friends and frenemies they've made along the way, including the hitman hired to kill Sam and Claire's ex, Eugene, all who have broken the mold of what their characters are initially presented as, and they come together during the increasing fear of the end of the world and the increasing interest in the tech Sam has. Once in Australia, something happens, and all their technology stops working. It seems like it may be the end of the world. They find that Sam's father's lab is underground, so it wasn't affected by whatever happened, and they celebrate. Joined by the people who they found along their journey in Australia and all across the world, and they share in music. There's a long and joyful music sequence. It's about connection, you know? The entire movie, people are searching for connection because of bad relationships, bad jobs, bad parents, hurt people looking for a community. And at the end of the world, they find it through music.
Santa Maria, Santa Teresa, Santa Anna, Santa Susanna, Santa Cecilia, Santa Coppelia, Santa Domenica, Mary Angelica.
This was all well and good. I felt like I had been on a journey like no other before that effortlessly spanned hours and hours. I ended up having this beautiful message about community even during the end of the world, and found family and breaking out of roles. It was great. But the thing is about the director's cut is I kind of slightly misled you. It definitely has two story ideas merged into one, but it itself is cut into 3 parts. The first part is the true road trip section, with chases, romances, and introductions to all our characters and the looming threat. In the second part, we learn about our characters and their motivations, and we get the culmination of the end of the world plot. But in the third part, we get the culmination of the other thematic and plot through line of the film. The amazing technology that can make blind people see. They tested on Sam's mom, and it works. It's beautiful. However, they also find that they can record the subconscious of a person while they dream. And the characters subsequently get obsessed with these dreams. The party and the community end as Claire and Sam both get pulled into a mental compulsion and obsession with watching their dreams, figuring out what they are and what they mean. They're able to stare into the human soul, and it stares right back. The tonal shift and the pacing coming to a halt can be really jarring when you're watching, and it can feel like it drags on a little too long, but this section is really what sealed the deal for me when I knew I was watching something special and deeply human. One of my recent favorite musicians, the Narcissistic Cookbook, has a song called Ghost Stories. It's about them being asked by their partner why they love them, and having a bit of an existential debate with themselves. They can't seem to find an answer to that question. They can tell the progress of how they loved and how they thought about love, but the answer to the question just never comes. And they say this:
You came along, you taught me that people cannot be explained, that we are all ghost stories at the end of the day, and maybe we should just aim to stay that way. Maybe there's a reason why we do the wonderful, horrible things we do to each other, but the reasons are too simple to be satisfying, and then we're left forgetting and remystifying each other, because we don't really want to understand what makes us hurt each other.
And later,
to answer your question, I love you because I have to. There is no why about it. Any more than there's a reason why water vapor gathers in the sky, why the nettles in the garden don't go away no matter how much the guy downstairs tries to keep them at bay. There is no why about it. There is a how, I suppose. Don't really understand it though. Maybe if I dug around a bit in the soil, I'd find out where all this love comes from and what it's for, but then the question would be answered. Ghost story would be over. There'd be very little point in telling it anymore.
I've seen people criticize the end of this movie for the fact that Claire is pulled out of her obsession by being given a book by Eugene that he wrote about their whole journey throughout the entire movie, claiming that it's just a message of like, oh, screen technology bad, book good, which is dumb, but I don't think it's trying to do this at all. It's talking about dreams. The things that, for the sake of the movie, lead us through life. They are mystical and magical and bring up the feeling of this whole movie that it's all some kind of dream. Some kind of world where things can be better even in hardship. You reach your Odysseus. You grow with and stay friends with your ex. And you create a cure for blindness, all while listening and being guided by music. And what brings them to a halt isn't vain images of themselves or like a stand-in for what would later become social media or something. It's the answer of their soul. Because then there isn't any magic. If we always knew that every day would be perfect, that the world wouldn't end, that our friends wouldn't leave us, that nothing bad or deviant would ever happen, and at that point it might just not matter. The movie captures the mystery of life, the mystery that drives the movie, the mystery of connection. They're not mysteries to be answered, but ones to be constantly sought, while singing and dancing with the people you meet along the way.
With
I know it can be extreme to compare this movie to COVID, and I'm not directly. I'm just talking about the headspace and the life experience I had just come off of when I watched this movie, and how by the end, I felt so much hope and love and joy. It's a warm and cozy movie that feels like your best friend by the end of it. It looks incredible and it sounds even better, and I think it has a timeless message about living through rough, hopeless feeling times. It's not giving solutions, it's giving the soul of humanity a chance to breathe, to release, and to dance. So maybe in all my searching through my own dreams, I may spoil the story, but I know that without my dreams, both literally and metaphorically, without the magic of life, the story just wouldn't be worth telling. So we need to keep spreading the dream. The dream of art, the dream of love, the dream of aid and hope and care, the dream of humanity. There's no big secret, or at least not one that's made for us. But we can do what we can do, and love what we can along the way. And, you know, this movie showed me why I'll love you till the end of the world. All of you. Thanks for watching.
And cook up. Others are works of inspiration, of poetry. And it was this genius hand that pushed me up the hotel stairs to say my last goodbye to her hair white as snow and her pale blue eyes.
Again, guys, I'm working on a much longer, more in-depth, less... I don't know, this is kind of in the style of my old video essays a lot before I started trying to really dig into research more, and more just kind of riffing on how a movie made me feel. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Really the big thing is I just wanted to tell you to go watch Until the End of the World. You can get the Criterion, which has the director's cut on it, which is definitely what I would suggest. It's amazing and great. And yeah, I'm working on the Crimes of the Future video. Happy Pride Month, everyone. I'm recording this on Juneteenth, so also happy Juneteenth. And yeah, if you are sad that I didn't put out a Pride Month video for Pride Month, just watch my All of Us Strangers video, which also just got a Criterion announcement, which is pretty sick. But thanks again for watching. I love you all. Goodbye.